There are a lot of different action cameras and GoPro clones and other things on the market, but a lot of them are designed for swimming or skydiving or stuff like that. But what about skateboarding? I did a lot of research and I bought the SooCoo C30 4K, and I'm going to review this as a tool for recording skateboarding. Let's get started. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, the channel where you can learn something new about skateboarding 3 times a week. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we talk about something in the skateboarding world, from tricks to culture to your favorite pros, and every now and then product reviews. So this camera right here is the SooCoo C30 4K Wi-Fi. You'll find that most of those ending terms don't mean anything, and I wanted to talk about its use in skateboarding. This guy costs 65 bucks or so online, although I got mine for 40 bucks on eBay. Yes, I bought it myself. This is not a review model. This was not sent to me. This is not sponsored in any way. This is just a camera that I researched and purchased for myself, and I wanted to share what it's like to use it with you guys. It comes with a lot of different adapters and mounts and clamps, like for bike handlebars and straps and all kinds of stuff. But the diagrams that it comes with are very confusing. It's hard to tell exactly what you need to do to hook it up to anything in particular. But the way I've been using it is very sketchy and weird, and it is this. So what I did is I got myself a coaster from the dollar store and I hooked it up like this. It's strapped down onto it, and I'm able to adjust the angle of it pretty well. It works fine. It might not be the most elegant solution. It doesn't look great, but it gets the job done. I could take this part off, put a mounting plate for a tripod and use that, but I'm using this camera right here on the tripod, and so I don't usually get the option to do that. But it does the job. The mounts are not the greatest quality. There aren't that many as opposed to some of the more robust packages out there. But as far as skateboarding is concerned, you're not going to need that many. It would be nice to have a better way to mount it to a hat or a helmet or something like that. It does have a clip that you can clip onto your hat. I've used that before, but it always just shoots right at my chest. So I'm still trying to figure out the best way to use all of these mounts, because like I said, those diagrams aren't great, but it's really not too bad for the price you're paying, at least. It also comes with 2 batteries, and this is probably the biggest problem with this camera. Probably the reason why it was used on eBay, and when I got it, it looked brand new, because the battery life is terrible. It comes with 2 of them, and they each last about 35 minutes or so, but that doesn't mean that you get an hour or more, because if you think about it, you have to risk it. If you're going to let the battery run all the way out and then go change it, you are just going to let it get pretty low and then switch it, right? So chances are you're going to get significantly less than an hour out of this thing. It does talk though, and it will tell you when the battery is getting low. The only problem is when you're skating, you have your wheels rolling, you probably have earbuds in, and you're typically not going to hear it. So it is a bit of a problem, but I did come up with a pretty much perfect solution for the situation I have, the way I use it. I've got one of these. This is a cell phone battery recharger backup thing, and what I do is I just plug it right in. It's a micro USB adapter, so you've probably got one of these laying around. I just put the camera on it, plug it in, and it will stay at 100%. I can skate for hours. So that works really well for me, having it just sitting on the ground like that. If you have it attached to a gimbal or a tripod or something else, you may need to come up with a different solution. If you're stuck having to switch out the battery, it is a big problem. So I want to put that up front, because if that's a deal breaker for you, then I would just keep looking. Now let's look at the different video modes that it offers. There are a couple of different modes here, like the 4K 24 frames per second, but don't get too excited because it's not really 4K. The sensor isn't big enough. It's actually shooting at the next highest size and scaling it up, and you're losing some frame rate for that too. There's no good reason to use this, so let's just skip right by it. The next one is 1440p 30, which is kind of a useless size. You can upload to YouTube in 1440, but for most other applications, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense because it doesn't scale evenly to 4K or 1080. It's somewhere in the middle. With 1080, if you quadruple it, it will fit perfectly into 4K. So 1 pixel becomes 4, and it still retains a lot of sharpness. But with this in-between size, if you scale it unevenly one way or the other, it's not going to look great, but it's not even worth trying either because the frame rate's only 30, so don't bother with this one either. Next is the 1080p, which you can do in either 60 frames per second or 30, and this is what I use for everything. I think the 60 frame per second mode looks pretty sharp. There's not a lot of motion blurring. Everything looks good about this. You can use the 30 if you just need to record something like dash cam or your bike ride from your handlebars or something like that. If you don't need really smooth motion, you can go for 30. The 60 is good enough for some light slow motion, but I do wish that there was a higher mode here. And there is a higher mode, but it's the 720p 120 frame per second mode, and it looks terrible. I don't know what's up with this. It looks like it actually shoots a lot lower and it just scales it up to 720. I used this for one trick dip and it looked terrible, so I never used it again. There are actually some other sizes below HD available too, but I don't know why you would use them. Aside from video, it does also take 20 megapixel pictures, which look like this. They're not too bad, but chances are your phone is a lot easier to work with, or you have a real camera that shoots better, so I haven't found a lot of use for this mode either. So it's a 4K Wi-Fi camera. What does the Wi-Fi do? As it turns out, nothing. In theory, what it does is you could connect your phone to the camera's Wi-Fi and you could use it as a viewfinder, and that would be really helpful because when you have it on the ground and you have it angled up, it'd be great to be able to see it on the camera, maybe hit the record button or something like that, but in my testing, it did not work at all. This weird Chinese app it has you download doesn't seem to do anything. I am connected to the camera's Wi-Fi and nothing seems to work. It says it's connected, but when you click over to the camera, it doesn't seem like it does anything. You can't access anything that's on the device. You can't get to a viewfinder. That doesn't even seem to be an option for that. The app has a lot of one-star reviews, and apparently it broke a long time ago, and they haven't bothered to fix it. So unfortunately, this mode is also useless. But what about the actual footage from the camera, the important part? I am very happy with the way that this footage looks as it comes out of the camera. It does have a wide dynamic range mode, which is important if you're shooting outside. If you're doing anything skateboarding or action related like these cameras are designed for, you do need a wider dynamic range, and that will let you see in shadows and also the bright sky at the same time. Typical camera like your cell phone camera, if you take a picture of someone standing outside, chances are the sky is going to be bright white, it's going to wash them out, they're going to look dark. Happens a lot, but with this camera, the sky still has a lot of blue in it. You can even have the sun in the shot, and it doesn't mess up the shot at all, which looks pretty good. So I'm happy with that. The fisheye lens is extremely wide, which is pretty good, and a lot of people would like it that way. I do tend to turn it down a little bit myself. To get your whole body to fill up the frame, you have to be almost touching the camera. You have to be so close. And that's very good if you're doing first person, or if you have someone doing a follow cam, or something like that, you would want that. But luckily, you do have the option to mess around with it if you need to. The colors coming out of this camera are very good. They might not be completely accurate. I think the saturation might be boosted a little bit, but I think it looks really good. I would probably boost the saturation anyway, but you don't have to do anything. It comes out of the camera looking very good. I have 3 different cameras that I use when I'm recording for the channel. I've got this guy, I've got the one I'm using right now, it's a Canon HF100, a very old camera. Not a great example of good HD footage, it's only 1080i, but it's like 8 years old or something like that. I have a Sony RX100, which is very good for photography, and that's why I have it. But it does do video, it's just that it will overheat after a while, and you have to do these settings manually. The auto mode isn't great, so I'm trying to look at it like this while it's on the ground and get the exposure right. Doesn't work so great, but this thing works really well. I just set it up, I hit the OK button to record, and I can trust that it's gonna look pretty good. With the really wide angle, if I'm a little bit off center when I'm doing the trick, it'll still end up on screen. So it's a very easy camera to use. It doesn't require a lot of effort. You just set it, hit the button, and forget it. Also, the gyro stabilization is good as well, and I will give you an example of what it looks turned off and turned on. One other major issue with the camera though is the menus. When I first got the camera, I read through the manual and I wanted to change the resolution and all that kind of stuff, and I could not figure out how. There's only a couple buttons on the camera. There's the OK button, which is actually the record button. There's the power button, and there are the rockers on the side. yeah, you can go through the menu with those rockers, but how do you open the menu? You actually have to tap the power button. You hold it to turn it off, but if you tap it, it'll switch from video mode to camera mode to review mode to the menu. And it took me a while to figure that out. I had to do a lot of Google searches and just mess around with the thing to figure out how to change the settings. And it's all in there, and there's nothing too bad once you get in there, but it is a little bit clunky. It takes a lot more effort to get to what you might want than you would expect, but you do have quite a few modes. There's the diving mode and the night mode and other stuff that's probably not going to apply for skateboarding, but it's cool to have all these options. Another really weird thing about it though is that it doesn't have an internal backup battery at all, like your computer or anything else does. So every time you reset the battery, which might be a lot, the internal time will reset and it'll think it's 1999. So if you are recording, let's say you set up the date and you did everything right, you go out your first time, you record with it, and then you switch out the battery, record some more, you'll get footage from today, and then your second part of your footage will be above it in 1999. At this point, mine are coming in at 2000 because I leave it on my charger and it never dies, but it is really weird that it's like that. One of the problems with this camera though is a lack of external microphone support. This is being recorded on the camera itself with the built-in audio, and as you can tell, it doesn't sound great. It's generally fine for skateboarding if you're just hearing rolling sounds or grinds and stuff like that, but if you ever want to record voiceovers and have stuff on camera like this, it's not the best option. So is the SooCoo, or SooCoo, I don't even know how to say it, is the C30 as good as a GoPro? Obviously not. You know, the latest, greatest GoPro is going to do a lot more than this will. It'll have better 4K, real 4K. It'll have all kinds of other features. The stabilization will be better, all that kind of stuff. But you really can't beat the price on this. I paid $40 for this thing, and I'm really happy with it. It looks better than any other camera I've got. So for me, this was a definite good purchase. I'm really happy with it. And I think for your average everyday skateboarding, if you're not looking to go professional at filming and you just want to film your buddies at the park or something, this will definitely get the job done. So that's all for this time. Here are some more videos YouTube recommends that you can check out. I also have my logo right here in the middle of the screen. You can tap that to subscribe, and that way you can keep learning new things about skateboarding and skateboarding products 3 times a week. Thank you for watching.